Do I have a game for you all to enjoy today? But first, let me give you a little bit of background information. So I often lurk around the Pokemon Auto Chess Discord and read through all the guides and ideas and questions and bug reports, etc. Especially when I have downtime at work, just sit there and just read the Discord. There's one suggestion in the ideas tab that caught my eye specifically. As of this screenshot, the thread had 227 messages, and generally these threads range from just a couple of messages to maybe a few dozen on the higher end. So I gave it a read and I learned about a new strategy that I'd never even considered, the Ghost Synergy Togepi Dodgemaxxing comp. The idea of this composition is to take advantage of Ghost Synergy's ability to dodge attacks. This starts at a base of 15% and scales with the unit's luck stat. If we look at Togepi's ability, it heals and grants luck to its allies, with the number of targets increasing as Togepi evolves. This goes hand in hand with Ghost's dodge scaling, since Togepi directly gives the luck stat that the Ghost Pokemon need to scale up their dodge chance. With all that said, Curry confirmed in the thread that Togepi will be getting its ability reworked in the next update, with the luck granting being removed, so I wanted to try out the strategy one time before it gets removed in the next patch. And well, here's how it went. Pardon the interruption, everyone. Editor Juice here. And I think I've said it in a couple of my videos that this isn't my primary thing, so I often get pretty slow on making these videos, especially with work. And sometimes that leads to things such as the new patch being released while you're working on the video. So technically now this video is outdated. I'm gonna release it hopefully the same day of the patch, but if we look right here, you just highlight that. It says Togepi with ability power itemization in Ghost Vertical is a comp that exists since patch 5.7. I didn't know about it until I saw that thread, but for some reason became super popular only recently. Yada yada yada. So Wish got reworked, which grants shield and protect to the lowest HP ally. So this composition can no longer be played, but the video is still good and the game is still good, so we're gonna send it out with one last hurrah. The first thing I wanted to do was get a starting region that gave me Varoom. There are no relevant ghost regions that will help me out here because I don't need a Hisuian Typhlosion. Instead, I want to try to do an artificial item check as soon as I can, which can be done successfully in an artificial region with Varoom as your regional and Clink as your common. The best possible item for me would be the spell tag, which gives the holder Ghost Synergy. This means that I can make my Togepi into a ghost type and won't have to level up to level 9 to maximize Ghost Synergy and have Togepi in. The general items I want to get are tank items, Max Revive, Rocky Helmet, Assault Vest, and PP generation items, Aqua Egg, Soul Dew, Deep Sea Tooth, etc. Since the idea of the composition revolves around Togepi casting as much as possible, I need a front line that can hold strong until Togepi gets a few casts off to scale up the other unit's dodge chance. As we get into the PvP rounds, I haven't seen a Varoom yet, so I can't check my first artificial item. Instead, I end up with 3 water types, so I decide to play with that for some extra gold generation in the early rounds. I always seem to find myself loose streaking, which is what happens here. I did some quick scouting and saw only one baby team while most other teams had evolved units, so I can live with it if I beat the baby team but lose to everyone else. At the ad pick, I'm not going to stick with water in the long run, so while I pick Ammonite, I really just want the heart scale. This gives me 1/2 of a Rocky Helmet, which is vital for my front line. Next, I unfortunately match into the baby team, so my team ends up winning. This is the risk I was taking, so my bonus loss streak money will just start a couple rounds later. Hopefully I can just fish up some water units to sell to make up for the difference. Immediately, I see a Varoom in the shop, which lets me check my first artificial item since I've held on to Clink. And lo and behold, I get the spell tag, which is huge. I don't have to get to level 9 to have Ghost 8 and Togepi in the team. I can just give Togepi the spell tag to give it the Ghost Synergy, and this also allows Togepi to scale up its own luck and dodge chance. The stage 6 fight is nothing exciting, and I can get my loss streak restarted. Stage 7 is another pretty quick loss. There are 2 evolved Pokemon with items, so my unevolved itemless team doesn't stand a chance here. At the rare ad pick, there are no useful Pokemon for me, so I pick for an item component. The Fossil Stone does nothing for me, the Black Glasses doesn't fit with what I'm trying to build, so Twisted Spoon it is. This gives me 1/2 of the Soul Dew that I would eventually like to get onto Togepi. I go ahead and do a tiny bit of rolling here just to see if I can hit some ghost units. I want to be able to get myself a ghost portal before my unique pick, so I'm using some of my extra gold to search. And the reason I do it a little bit on this round is because on the PvE round, you add the 5% chance for wild Pokemon to show up, so it just dilutes the pool a little more. Unsurprisingly, I go on to lose the round. As we approach Gyarados, I end up getting the most perfect, ideal shop I could have asked for before the fight. The Drifloon I saved from last round gives me a ghost unit, and then I get Varoom and Sinistea, 2 artificial units for me to reacquire the spell tag. I'd sold my first Varoom and Clink earlier to hit a higher interest number, so getting the artificial to synergy back this early is great. I'm still above 50 gold, so I want to do just a little bit of extra rolling to find another unit since I'm level 5. I find a second Drifloon, and 1 roll later, we get the star of the show, Togepi. Getting the specific rare unit I was searching for at this stage of the game is pretty lucky, and I am setting myself up well heading into the mid-game. I get a Miracle Seed after defeating Gyarados to pair with my Never Melt Ice for a max revive. At the unique carousel, I get very easy access to a ghost portal and am able to get a fantastic frontliner in Mimikyu. I put my newly crafted max revive onto Mimikyu alongside a heart scale. I want to try to hold off a little bit longer on making another complete item out of the heart scale in hopes of getting a Rocky helmet. After a little bit of unit swapping, I end up with my Ghost Synergy Togepi thanks to the spell tag. Then I throw an Aqua Egg on Togepi to start getting some casts spammed to scale up my team's dodge chance. The team is still pretty weak right now, especially considering I haven't hit a single evolution. You'll notice me hovering over my units pretty often now, as I'm checking their luck stats to see who Togepi is casting on and who is having their dodge chance scaled up. Mimikyu gets a couple casts, and we start to see the potential of the Dodgemaxxing team. While ultimately a loss, this ends up being a very close fight that Togepi and Mimikyu almost won on their own. And my waiting pays off, as the epic ad pick comes with a heart scale. None of the units were worth picking specifically, and even if they were, I think I always take the heart scale in this spot. With that, I'm able to put a Rocky helmet on a Mimikyu, and I have great frontline items. Then, I level up to 6, which allows me to put Drifloon on the field to activate Amorphous 3 synergy. I decide to roll a bit aggressively here, because I want to make my team stronger. The longer they can stay alive, the more Togepi can scale everyone up, and having evolved units with more health will definitely help that out. I get matched up against an electric player who has only lost once up to this point. Working towards a stronger team though definitely paid off, as Togepi is able to get 7 casts off throughout the battle. When it starts to look dire with Mimikyu and Togepi going up against 2 fully stacked muscle bands, the dodge chance scales up. Mimikyu is able to avoid a majority of the damage and is able to dish out the most damage on the team by far to win this one. At the next item carousel, there are unfortunately no Mystic Waters, and my game gets very stuttery and laggy on the carousel, so I just go for whatever item I can get that isn't a Fossil Stone, because a Fossil Stone is basically useless in the comp I'm going for. I buy a Ditto from the shop after grabbing my item in the carousel, and make an up-tempo play by using it on Togepi to evolve it. Typically, I like to save my Dittos for much rarer units, like Ultras, and I am losing some value by using a 5-cost Ditto on a 3-cost Togepi, but with this strategy revolving around Togepi's casts, I feel like doubling the potency of said casts will pay for itself. And during this fight, I want you to just keep an eye on Mimikyu. While I think I would have beaten this team even without the Togepi casts, the added dodge chance makes this a cakewalk. Mimikyu never drops below 3/4 of its health and easily wipes out this team. In between rounds, I debate crafting a red orb for Mimikyu to help increase its damage output, but I ultimately decide not to, as I feel like I'm in a position where I can really wait until I get extra item components to make the best items possible for my team later. Here, I end up against a combination of Rock, Ghost, and Amorphous. It's a very strong team with a fully itemized Golem and gets out to a quick start against me, turning this fight into a 3v6 very quickly. Even with the odds against me, Togetic gets 4 casts off before it goes down, and the Ghost Curse from the spell tag takes out the Golem, and Mimikyu is able to clean up the 1v2 to bring this one home. Nothing exciting happened during the Mew PvE round. I just spent some time looking at my opponent's teams, and I end up getting a Miracle Seed as my item. Then I do a little bit of aggressive rolling to try to keep up my tempo, and while I don't find any evolutions, I do find a Snorunt to give me a Ghost 7 synergy. Now my plan is to just save up my gold to hit level 8 to have Ghost 8 synergy active. Here's another fight to just watch Mimikyu and Togetic for support. Mimikyu picks off a pretty weak front line without much issue, while Togetic gets a couple of casts off. As Mimikyu moves into the back line, it does start taking a little bit of damage from casts, but Togetic keeps it alive and keeps scaling that dodge chance. The back end of this fight is pretty easy, as my units can't really be touched at this point. Togetic ends the fight with 6 total casts. A wild Grookey appears in my shop, and that gets me thinking. I could slot this guy in beside Togetic once I hit level 9 to provide some extra PP generation for more casts. Grookey won't be much help right now, but could be a great unit for me to slot in later. As we get into the next fight, I almost start to feel bad. Mimikyu has a max revive on it that has barely been used because no unit has been actually able to hit it enough to get it down to that second life. Even though my opponent here is a level up on me, Mimikyu is able to hold off long enough for Togetic to get a couple of casts off to become unkillable once again. That player had been in first place, but with this win, I now take over the top spot. The downside to being first is that I move last in the Kangaskhan carousel. I see a Deep Sea Tooth that I would love to put on Togetic, or even a Shiny Charm for survivability, but unfortunately, every item I want ends up getting taken, so I settle on a Punching Glove. My team isn't really doing huge amounts of damage, I'm mostly just out surviving everyone, so the percent damage will definitely help. Now, I'm going to spoil the result of this fight early, but I feel like I really had no business coming away with a victory here. Mimikyu gets super targeted and finally has a round where its max revive gets triggered. I'm down 1 unit for the majority of the fight, and the Clef Key is stacking up damage and locking down my team. Mimikyu gets dangerously low on health here, but some timely casts from Togetic keeps it healthy enough. The fight ends up going on for long enough that the dodge scaling takes over and Mimikyu is able to clean it up. That was a 7 cast performance from Togetic to help win that one, even with my team being out damaged by over 600 HP. I pull quite the intimidating matchup here with the Cryogonal and a fully itemized Vanillish. The ice casts could slow down my Togetic casts. As the teams engage, their much more evolved frontline is able to outlast mine, as Cryogonal and Vanillish cast to do a lot of damage. Unfortunately for me, Togetic is the target for the next Cryogonal cast and just gets deleted from the fight. Vanillish keeps locking down the backline, but Mimikyu gives its best shot to pull this fight back. It gets close, and I think there's a chance of winning if I can get lucky enough with some dodges. The timer puts an end to that dream though, as the units enrage and Mimikyu drops. Since I'll be level 8 by the next PvP round, I want to do a little bit of rolling to try to find another ghost unit. I pull a Fuecoco quickly and decide to swap out Drifblim for a moment. This removes some of my synergies and gives me a better chance of generating more ghost portals. Since my front line is so good, or will be once I evolve Honedge, I was hoping to get another ranged unit. This would give the Punching Glove I have a much better use. And I'm able to get Pecharunt, who I feel will fit this team perfectly. It gives me the ranged unit I was aiming for, while also giving me a fantastic supporting ability with Possession. This can essentially give me another frontliner for a few seconds, which gives more time for Togetic to cast. I put the Muscle Band on Mimikyu to give it some scaling attack, and craft a Razor Claw and Protective Pads to put on Pecharunt with the Punching Glove. This allows it to deal plenty of damage alongside the support it has. I also put a Power Lens on Togetic, which, watching back, why? Because in the moment, I figured, okay, it gives some AP, and I can use that. It's like 10 AP, so I think the luck went from like 17 or 20 to 22. It definitely would have been much better suited on one of the frontliners. Anyways, the new addition of Pecharunt serves the team very nicely. It racks up damage quickly by putting out some high damage attacks. While my still unevolved frontline falls pretty quickly, the combination of damage from Mimikyu and Pecharunt, alongside with all of the ghost curses, allows this fight to get cleaned up pretty quickly. Next up, I face a full crit cast Zekrom. Although with this team being a weird combination between electric and field, Zekrom's casts aren't nearly as powerful as they could be. Pecharunt gets a big cast on the Stantler to possess it, which makes it take down one of its teammates before getting taken out of the fight. The Ghost 8 curse then hits Zekrom, and this fight is as good as over, placing me back in first. Since I'm first again, I'm at the mercy of whatever is left over on the item carousel. I go defensive again, grabbing another Power Lens for Dual Blade, who I was able to evolve during the carousel. Then I match up against the current second place player with a very strong Amorphous 7 team now. While the exchange starts out pretty evenly, a Duosion cast does some huge damage across my team, and shortly after, Nihilego gets a second cast off before getting taken out by the Ghost Curse. We end up in a 3v3 with my 3 strongest units still alive. Mimikyu and Petron take down Golem, while Spiritomb succumbs to the Ghost Curse. We can add this round to the growing list of victories. I start the next round off by getting 2 great evolutions in my shop to buff up my team. Then I decide that with all the victories I'm stacking up, I'll for sure go for level 9. This was always loosely the plan so I could put Grookey into the team, but with my lead and my team, I can turn the plan into a reality. I pull a sort of a mirror match here as this player is also going for the Dodgemaxxing comp. At this stage though, my version of the team is much stronger. I'm a level above and I have the spell tag to complete my Ghost synergy, while my opponent is still at Ghost 6. While we are running a lot of the same units, I have all the evolutions, so this one turns out to be a pretty easy victory. I didn't even lose a single unit during the fight. I grab a second Grookey out of the shop and continue my trek towards level 9. My team is feeling very strong, so at this point, I just want more items for my frontliners so they can tank for Togetic longer. If I didn't waste an item slot on my Togetic, I could have potentially grabbed a different item than the Power Lens for it, but we'll settle with the Assault Vest for my Dual Blade, which will pair very nicely with the Power Lens on it. Let's continue on with the Ghost on Ghost action. This time, my opponent does have Ghost 8. My Knockout Curse targets the opponent's Darkrai, while theirs targets my Pecharunt, which feels like a win to me. Ceruledge jumps into my backline, but it quickly jumps away with its Smoke Ball after being targeted by 5 of my units. Mimikyu stays alive just long enough to take out Haunter, and then falls to the Knockout Curse. A handful of Togetic casts help tilt this one in my favor, and the win streak stays alive. Given the state of the game, I feel like I can full send it to level 9 and just win. I'm 40 HP up on my opponents with plenty of tempo and can add in a Grookey to the team for extra PP generation. I end up using my leftover gold to do some extra rolling, and I'm able to hit the Wacky right away. Because of my positioning here, Togetic actually got stuck in the back between all of my other ranged units, and honestly, this worked out great in my favor. Togetic got to just chill and cast with no worry of being knocked out of the fight. Mimikyu took so much pressure off of my ranged units, and while Pecharunt got displaced because of Dual Blade, it possessed Porygon 2 and dealt tons of damage elsewhere. I win this round pretty quickly, and suddenly I'm left in a 1v1. And like all of the other item picks, I continue my trend of getting tankier items for my frontline, and I grab a Sticky Barb for my Dual Blade to increase its defense some. Before the potential last fight, I did do some rolling to work my way towards a Togekiss. With my HP advantage, I didn't want to roll all the way to 0, just on the off chance I lost, that I could retain some economy to continue rolling more. I'm not in a rush to roll down to 0, so I want to keep advantages where I can have them. The potential final showdown is here, and it's just my Dodgemaxxing team versus the scary Amorphous 7 team from a few rounds earlier. My Ghost Curse goes straight into the Nihilego, so its impact will be limited in this fight. My frontline holds up well, giving Togetic time to get a couple of casts off, but then disaster strikes. Duosion gets off a massive cast that does 800 damage across my units. Togetic gets a cast off to heal up Mimikyu, who's dodging everything. The 2 Caterpie go down, and that is a first place finish for yours truly. This comp was really fun to play for the first time, but I can definitely see why it's getting removed. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. They come out infrequently, but I do put a little bit of time and effort into them when they do come out, so appreciate y'all watching.